Welcome to the Alumni Panel. I would like to, my name is Mike. He's growing pain, whatever. I think most of you know Marta, and I don't know if you know Alex, but Alex works in the Malone Center, and he's sort of our liaison, and he did a lot of work to get this thing going. So, round of applause, I guess.
It's a pleasure to be here. Enjoy the pizza and the snacks. Presenters, I'm so sorry that we don't have pizza and snacks for you, but we give it to you in spirit. Hope you all enjoy.
Yeah, so I'm not going to sit up here and talk to you. I just want to introduce our two speakers, and then I'll get out of the way. So I don't know either of our two speakers. They both graduated in 2018, which was about 4 years ago. And they're friends. That is by chance. I mean, it's not chance that they're friends, but it's by chance that we asked two people to speak who happen to be friends. So Emory Conetta is going to speak first. She is currently the Assistant Curator at the Sarasota Museum of Art, which is in Sarasota. And then we have Anna Sylvester, who works for VitPay, as a software engineer doing user experience. So I will stop speaking now. Emory, you can share your screen. You should be able to share your screen, and then you can speak to us.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here to speak with you all tonight. And I think it's great that Anna and wow, I can see the reflection in the window and how large I am. That's weird. Anyway, it's awesome that Anna and I are still really close friends, and we met at Furman and went through the art department together. I actually double majored with studio art and art history. So I came in as a scholarship student doing studio art and focused in film photography, but took art history and fell in love with it and realized I was much more interested in the concepts behind art than I was in actually making it myself. But a lot of the sort of tools and experiences I had with studio art have helped me in my career. So I'm glad I was able to do both. I'm going to share my screen so I'm not a big talking head, and go through just some images of some stuff. I know part of this was really looking at sort of what it was like after Furman. So I wanted to show some images of what I was doing right when I left. So I actually went straight from Furman into getting my master's degree. For those of you who are interested in art history, this is sort of the path that you take. Most of the jobs in the art world that are related to art history and curation do require a master's degree. So I actually did mine in London with Christie's Art Auction House. The master's degree actually no longer exists, but the Sotheby's one does, which is another one of the big auction houses. And I wasn't able to study abroad during my time at Furman, so I wanted to do that for my master's degree. And I think the big draw for me to do this program was that you had classes in the different museums throughout London, which was really interesting. And then you also had a work placement in the auction house. So I was able to intern with Christie's when I was going into my junior year at Furman. And that's how I had the connection to the master's degree. And I think there's actually maybe an art major who graduated last year who's doing the Sotheby's program now. So it is a really great program. And the big thing with this is that you go to London, or you could do the New York program as well. You travel to different places. So we went to Venice for the Biennale in 2019. We got to go to Tokyo, Japan, and see the museums there and how the art market is different there than it is in London or even the US. And I think the big thing too, I know the art department's changed since we were there, but there wasn't really anything for art business, and that's something I was interested in. So looking at art as a commodity as well as a fine object. And so that was a great experience doing that. And then it's sort of funny how the timing when we graduated, it was sort of, I finished my master's right when COVID hit. So I came back to Sarasota, Florida, which is where I'm from, and a contemporary art museum had just opened. And the museum is actually part of Ringling College of Art and Design. And it is in an old high school that was transformed into the museum. And it's been in the making for about the last 20 years. So we opened in December of 2019. And I started just as a part-time curatorial assistant because I wasn't sure if I was going to stay or what my plan was with COVID. And as a curatorial assistant, it's a lot of the things that you do if you're taking an art history class, like researching an artist, writing text for an exhibition. And then once I decided I was going to stay, I was offered a position as assistant curator. And some images of some past exhibitions just so you all can see the space a bit more. We are a contemporary institution, so all work that's post-war, so after 1945 to now. And I think what's interesting too is we're what's called a Kunsthalle, which is a German word meaning that we have no collection. So all the work that we have is rotating exhibitions every 3 to 5 months, which is really fun because you always have new artwork to look at, but it's also a challenge because we don't have a permanent collection that we can pull from. So we had a lot of challenges during COVID of, for an example, we were going to bring in an artist named Carlos Bunga, who's from Spain, but because of the rules around going from country to country during COVID, he wasn't legally able to enter the country to create the work here. He does site-specific works. We have a Felix Gonzalez Torres sculpture right now that's made out of candy, but because of supply chain issues, because of COVID, we couldn't order enough of the same type of candy for the sculpture. You know his work, he does these candy spills made out of candy. And so just very strange things coming in as a curator during COVID, but learning to be very adaptable. So my day-to-day can be somewhat boring. It can be like working on contracts, but the really fun part is working with the artists. Since we are a contemporary art museum, I'm mainly working with living artists, which is always a really fun time. So all of the exhibitions I develop in conjunction with the artists themselves and their galleries, if they have gallery representation, collectors. So you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here, this was a retrospective we did of Janina Chape's work, who's a Brazilian and German artist. And we had collectors from all over the world loan works for this exhibition. This is a little behind the scenes of when we were installing the work. So when the work comes in, we look at the condition, we take notes. So that's some of the not as fun stuff. The stuff that I really enjoy is getting to work with different community groups and learning more, not only about them, but also connecting with them through art. So in the bottom left-hand corner here, this is a group of third grade boys from the Visible Men's Academy that came in, and it was still early on in COVID, so we're all safely socially distanced and masked. But it's just great to have people come in and experience the work because, you know, art can hang wherever all over the world, but it's people who truly activate it and make it special. Top there, we're doing a program. We like to collaborate with other cultural groups. So we were working with Moat Marine, which is, I'm thinking of what they are. They do a lot of work with conservation and with sea life. And so we were doing a talk together for a family day. So working with groups of all ages and hands-on activities related to the exhibitions. I did include the one that we're working on right now. So to give you a sense of what the day-to-day, I was texting Anna earlier and I was saying, oh, we're actually mid-installation of a new show. So we're working with Daniel Ramos, who's an artist from Puerto Rico, and his work was part of the Whitney Biennial in 2019. And for those of you who are museum people or you're interested in going into the museum field, the Whitney Biennial is where the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York selects who they consider to be the most important contemporary artists, and they commission them to create new works. And so Daniel was chosen as one of those artists in 2019. And then we invited him after that to create 3 new works for us that'll be on view. So these are some behind the scenes works. He works with all found objects and all objects that he collected from the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. So he creates these sculptures. Right now he's working on a series of Marias. And it's a reference to sort of the cultural history in Puerto Rico, indigenous history, but also the impact of the hurricane. And it's something different for us to do. We're working with a lot of unconventional media. I think that's a great thing about being a contemporary art museum too, is that you can do things that are a bit more wild because people sort of expect it, because you're supposed to be cutting edge and responding to the current moment. So that's a bit about what I do. Essentially, most of it is acting as a liaison between artists and helping them realize exhibitions, writing all the text for the exhibitions, working with press. But the real fun part is getting to work with the artists in the community groups. And we actually have, for Daniel and Ramos's exhibition, a group coming in from the one charter school in Sarasota that's dual language. So all the students speak Spanish and English. So we'll be bringing them in next week to meet with Daniel and to experience the exhibition because Spanish is Daniel's first language. And it's stuff like that. That's the really fun part and the most fulfilling stuff. But yeah, that's a bit about what I do as an assistant curator. And never really thought that this was the path I would be going down, but sort of coming back to Sarasota and having this opportunity opened new doors for me. And I've been really thankful to get the experience working with artists all around the world and art professionals all around the world. And the great thing too is working with artists that you know personally. So right now we have Danner Washburn's work on view in the museum. He's also a Furman grad, so you never know the connections you're going to make in the art department at Furman. So be nice to all of your cohorts because you never know, maybe they'll give you an exhibition one day. But yeah, that's just a little bit about what I do as a curator.
Emory, if you have questions, that's great. Maybe hold on to them. We'll do a Q&A later in the evening. But for now, I'd like to invite Anna Sylvester to share with us about what she's up to.
Hello. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Similar to Emory, if you had told me that I was going to be a software engineer when I was a senior art major, I would have laughed really hard. When I think of software engineers, I think of people drinking Red Bull and sitting in a cave. And so I am excited to talk to you guys about how art and tech can kind of come together. And there is a lot more visual things and jobs and opportunities out there. And yeah, I have a presentation, so I won't be a big head either. Let's see. Here we go. I think. Cool. Okay. So my path, I started, I graduated in 2018. I was an art major, just regular studio art. I did focus on graphic design. I took all of those classes. I thought that I was gonna go into marketing or something like that. And I started looking for a job. After a while, I got a job offer, but I wasn't excited about the work. It wasn't good pay, honestly. And I was just I don't know. I just feel like there's something else I'm supposed to do. I don't know. And it just wasn't the right fit. And I didn't feel like it was good. So I started looking at learning an additional skill because I was interested in maybe getting into tech. And so I was like, okay, what direction do I want to go? I ended up doing the Georgia Tech coding boot camp. I did the 6-month one, but boot camps are usually 3 months or 6 months. I recommend the longer ones so that you're not having to do it every single day for 8 hours. But and a month before I graduated the boot camp, I got a job offer from the company that I currently work at, BitPay. BitPay is a crypto tech company, and it's a startup. It's really fun. It's really interesting. I am interested in crypto, but I understand that's not everybody's thing. I touch on that later. And yeah, so I first started as an intern with BitPay, and then after 3 months, they gave me a full-time offer, and I've been with them ever since. So why I like software engineering in particular is that I use my degree every single day. I use the hard skills and soft skills. I am always on Adobe Illustrator and similar softwares like Figma and Sketch and things. All of these little illustrations that are on my presentation are things that I did when I was an intern. When you're at a startup, you kind of do just whatever they need. And so they needed some illustrations for apps and websites. So all of these little guys are from that. Another reason I really enjoy being in tech, just because it's like really fast paced and you get all of like the news of new technologies that are coming out. And, you know, depending on what company you work for, you could be helping build those products. Another reason, and this is a big one, is that every single company out there needs them. Our world is like completely online now. So it's not just like crypto companies or like apps that need software developers. They're anything that you can think of. I've interviewed at like the banks and even more like traditional companies like NBC and Disney and things like that. So it's like, it's really any company that you can think of, there'll probably be a software engineering opening. So there's not a lack of jobs at all. It's actually just like growing. I also enjoy that I like build something that people interact with and use every day. And I can like go look at my work in the real world or online in the real world. And it's just like, it's really rewarding work, I think. And then last, this was a big one for me, was the financial stability. I'd mentioned earlier that I wasn't happy with the salary I was first offered with like the first job offer I got. Being a software engineer has allowed me to live a comfortable life and like, you know, pay off loans and buy a car and things like that I didn't know if I would be able to do. And I think that has been like a really great thing about the career. So I wrote these down as to kind of like break down what is a software developer or engineer, because it's kind of just a big word that's like, I don't know what that actually means. So it's more of an umbrella term. Me specifically, I'm a front-end developer, which is the first one on the list. So the front end and back end people are the people who are like, when you think of moving big data around and they're like with the like Red Bulls in the dark, not always, but that's typically a back end developer, is people who they're extremely, extremely smart and they're really good at their jobs. And it's a lot of math. Front end is on the front side. So it's like what you see, what you interact with. So like, you know, the way that an app works, buttons, copy, images, animations, things like that. So yeah, I'm a front-end developer, but I just wrote down some other ones that are out there, like a web developer. It's like self-explanatory. UX, UI is it's like how things work, like how the user interacts with what they're working on. Apps and games. And for all of these, there's going to be people that are more like code heavy, and those would be the developers, and then the designers are the people that are more design heavy. So like, yeah, so it's like you don't always have to know how to code to do one of these jobs. If you're a UX UI designer, that would be like, you wouldn't need to know how to code, but if you're a UX UI developer, you would. That makes sense. Okay, I also wanted to touch on boot camps because they're like a hot topic. People feel strongly about them sometimes. I did do a boot camp, so I wrote down some pros and cons. Pros, you get advice from teachers and homework and deadlines, which I know doesn't sound like a pro, but it is a pro. And you get a portfolio at the end to kind of show what you worked on. Cons, it's kind of a lot of money, and even more money, you know, than like it's not feasible for like everyone. So, but the thing is that I didn't learn a single thing in my boot camp that I couldn't have learned for free online. That's why I wrote the self-taught, and self-taught is really great because there's just there's so many free things online to learn how to do these things. And even if you wanted to pay like a really low price for one of the classes, they're like, like a couple $100 or something. It's also really admirable if you're a self-taught developer, because when you talk in your interviews and stuff, it's just, people respect you. It takes insane discipline. I put that in the cons because it takes a lot of discipline, and it will maybe take longer. That was like, I wanted mine to be like really streamlined and as quick as possible. I do think I probably could have done self-taught, but it would have taken me a lot longer. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it on my presentation. Cool.
So I would say, if anyone has questions, maybe you can raise your hand and I will call on you, and then there's a microphone above us. You can just speak loud enough for them to hear you. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask? Ellen?
So what does like your day-to-day look like? Like, does it change a lot, or do you kind of do, like, what's your favorite part? Sorry, I should kind of ask like two questions, but.
Wait, do we both answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I can go first. My day today is I wake up really early. I am working at an East Coast company, but I live in Los Angeles. And so my day starts at 7 a.m., but I get off at 3. And I have a couple meetings every day. I will dedicate some time for like designing websites and all of our products is what they call it. There's so many like terms in tech. It's kind of like college. When people are like the DH and you kind of just have to learn the lingo. And then once you learn the lingo, you're like, okay, cool. It's the same thing. So if I say fancy terms, just stop me. So yeah, I work on like different products during the day. I'll design some, and then we send some for testing, but a lot of my day is dedicated to coding. But it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's fun to me. That might sound crazy, but I like it. It's fun, especially animations. I really like doing animations.
Mine's a little different because we work in exhibition cycles. So we turn over exhibitions roughly 3 times a year. And we try to turn over exhibitions during season so that because Sarasota can be a tourist town, people come here for the beach. So we're usually busiest from fall to spring. So we'll turn over exhibitions in the winter time. So leading up, we start working on exhibitions 3 to 5 years in advance. So I'm already planning exhibitions for 2025. So it depends on, I should have explained this too. There's different types of exhibitions. So there's original ones that we curate in-house where I'm working with the artist and it's all original content. And then there's traveling exhibitions. So one example we just had is Robert Colescott, who was a painter in the Bay Area, who's sort of being rediscovered. He was overlooked for many years as an African-American painter. And so that was a traveling exhibition that has gone around the United States, and we were one of 6 locations. It's at the new museum in New York now. So if it's something like that, it's a lot less work on my end because all the content is already written. I still write all the educational content that we give out to our docents to train them when visitors come in so they can give them more information. But my day-to-day is usually like morning is emails and meetings. So if it's exhibitions that are far out, staying in contact with the artist and thinking about logistics, like shipping the work of art and everything like that, we have to plan really far in advance. And then as we get closer, it's developing the content. And the fun thing is exhibitions to evolve because you're working with living artists, but it can also be really difficult because things could change like a few days before. Like we're still trying to decide which drawings we're going to include in Daniel's show when it opens next week. So now that we're in a part of the season where we're turning over exhibitions, I pretty much move my desk into the galleries and work from there. And it's a lot of decision making around the content we want to include, curating the work, so where they actually go in the physical space, and then meeting with press, community groups, and things like that. So some days are less fun than others, but I feel like everything you do, you have your like deep work time where you dedicate to like, Anna, for you, like the coding, where mine is like writing the content is really important and I need to focus. And then you have all the other stuff like responding to emails and meetings and things like that. Anyone else?
Dr. Fisher has a question. This is Dr. Watson's replacement. Go ahead, Dr. Fisher.
Hi, thanks both of you for your presentations. We have a lot of people in this room who are graduating seniors, and I'm wondering if you can both speak to giving some practical advice for being on the job market. So in looking for curatorial work or working in a museum more broadly, or then in the tech sector, and I know this is probably a question you're expecting, but what is also one thing that you could share that you wish you had known before as you embarked on the journey of job searching?
Oh, I have a good one. I think the biggest thing for working in the museum world and the commercial art world is it's as much as like who you know in addition to what you know. So I wish that I had made more connections when I did internships or even when I was at Furman and keeping up with professors and things, because I got the position that I'm in now because of someone that I interned for before and she recommended me. And that goes a really long way because there are very few curator positions and it's very competitive. And like Anna said, with her market, there's more jobs coming up, but there's also a lot more people getting into that. So I'm sure it's getting more and more competitive. So I think just keeping those connections, not only with classmates, but also professors, and pretty much every job that I've had since I graduated is because I knew someone who could recommend me. And that really makes you stand out with hundreds of other applicants.
I have like a couple, they might be like way too specific and practical, but like one thing that I would recommend is first off, look up the job titles and get familiar with the job titles of whatever field you want to go into, and then compare like the salaries and stuff on Glassdoor. It's really helpful. Second, I think I applied to like 50 different places when I graduated or something. I used the thing to keep track of it. But what I learned from that, so that you guys don't have to do that, is that you will get a faster and actual better response if you don't use LinkedIn and Indeed. So what I do, this is like very specific, but I go on the LinkedIn and Indeed and I find the company that I like, and then I go to the company's website, careers page, and apply directly through the website. It goes in, it's like a different pipeline where you're getting sent. And so it's just like, it's better and you'll get more visibility if you apply directly through the website. That's like a big one. Also, I have gotten some like really cool interviews with very cool companies because I had a really fun resume that I made on Illustrator. It's like not every job would love to have I think it's called like a typographic, resume, where it has like graphs and it looks fun and, it looks all graphic designy. Not every job is going to love having one of those, but the ones that I apply to like adore it because, I'm doing like kind of design and tech and stuff. And so it's proving, hey, I said I knew how to do Adobe. Look, this is literally, I did this with Adobe. So, yeah.
Did we answer the questions? I feel like there were two, and I don't know if we addressed them.
What was the second one?
No, I think you guys nailed it, so thank you.
Okay, cool.
I think too, just to add in something quickly, Anna, and I, even though we both work in art related fields, the museum nonprofit field is very different from what Anna does. So where here, it's your CV is expected to be clean, Times New Roman font, only Black. If you have a color on your CV, you will not be taken seriously. It's the opposite for her. So that's really great advice, is curating your CV to the job that you're applying to, and just really knowing the field and asking people, who already work in those fields, what other people will be expecting.
Yeah. And if you were a back-end developer, they wouldn't appreciate the kind of resume that I would send them. It would be just the design and front end that are appreciative of it. Also, cover letters, that some people say to do them, some people don't. You should just do them, in my opinion. I think it can't hurt. Just come up with a template and change the company name and the job that you're applying to each time. That's it. That's all you do. But can't hurt. I don't know. My current job, they were like, oh yeah, we really loved your cover letter. And I was like, you guys read those? So.
Do you all know the difference, between a resume and a CV? When they're referencing that?
No idea. Emory?
Okay. Sorry, asking the crowd, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say the CV is just the lingo we use in the museum world. I could not tell you the difference between a resume and a CV.
It'll usually have on the field, it'll say resume/CV, and then where you browse and drop your thing. And then the next one is cover letter. And then you do the same there. I think they're interchangeable.
Yeah, they're basically synonyms, but a CV can list everything, all of your accomplishments. So if the job asks for a resume, you should keep it to that kind of one page. If it does say /CV, this is when you can put, all the projects you've worked on. If you have any publications, it can be as long as it needs to be.
If you all have questions about that, you can come talk to me. I do that professionally.
Are there any other questions for our panelists? Go ahead.
So I'm a freshman, so I'm sort of just looking at internships and stuff and what I might want to do, and it sounds like it's very important, or very helpful thing. So how did y'all find or pick your internships that you wanted to do?
That's a good question. I think I had no idea what I wanted to do, and so I just picked something random. When I decided I wanted to apply to Christie's to do that, it was because I knew nothing about art business. So I thought I could add another skill to my current skill set. And actually, the former executive director of the museum, I had interned with her and met her through a friend of a friend. So, those random connections are really important. And she worked for Christie's before, and she said they do an internship program. You should apply to it. And so that's how I came to doing that. And the interesting thing is, if you work for a larger company, a lot of times they'll ask you what your interests are, and then they'll pick the best department for you to work on based on that. So because they knew I'd worked in a museum before, I worked for the museum services department at the auction house. So they help museums who are looking to purchase new works of art, but also museums that are deaccessioning, which means artworks that are part of their permanent collection that they want to let go of. So a lot of museums are starting to do this, which is a new kind of controversial thing, that they're letting go of artworks that don't really speak to our contemporary society anymore. And they're using the money from selling those artworks to purchase artworks of artists who come from communities who have been overlooked. So people of color, women, etc. And it was really interesting. So I learned something completely new, and the skills that I learned there, even some of the stuff sorting through mail, which when I got there, I was really annoyed that I had to do, but it's just skills and sort of just proving to them that you're a committed worker, because then that internship down the line will write you a reference. So there's like everyday skills that you can learn too, in addition to some of the finer, newer skills that you can add to your resume.
For me, I chose ones of kind of just testing out different fields that I was like maybe interested in. And granted, I wasn't doing the exact thing that I was, you're not going to be like head of marketing if you want to go do a marketing internship, but you'll get a feel for it based on who you're working around. So yeah, I just tested out different ones, and I never actually tested out tech. It was all like marketing and graphic design things. So the recommendations that they'll give you do like help a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a freshman, I remember feeling very just like discombobulated and had no idea what I wanted to do. And I went to the Career Center and I did Myers-Briggs test and figured out it's just like, it's interesting to sort of look at things that are outside of yourself, or to speak with people who know you and think maybe what you would be best suited for. But I remember doing that test, and one of the jobs in there that was suited to my personality type was actually curator. And that was the first time I actually considered that for a position. So if you feel like you're still trying to find your way, talk to other people who know you, or maybe even do some sort of personality test and see where it leads you. Some of the things I got were like, I would never do, and that does not suit me. But it's interesting to see what things could sort of align that you didn't expect. So.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a list of questions I can ask, but I'd rather you ask your questions. Shouldn't have told you I had a list. All right, I'll just, so you were at Furman about 4 years ago. Were there any classes, whether they were art related or non-art related, that you feel like you look back on now as professionals that you are really glad you took?
I would say the one that always comes to mind first for me is photography with Dr. Bright, or Professor Bright, because I think there's something interesting and with all of the studio art classes where you're not only taught how to work with the medium, but you're also taught to think critically. And I've been able to apply that to different parts. So working through like photography, like critiques and things like that, and just looking at art from other people's perspective. That's essentially what I do now, is like working within criticism and writing. So I think that was really important for me. But I will also say to the person who is a freshman, the best thing you can do is to take random classes that you never thought that you would be interested in, because you learn things about yourself through that experience that then help you form what you want to do. And it's the same with the internship, like do something that is sort of out of your comfort zone and see where it leads you.
For me, I think all the art classes were really beneficial because it does teach you just like work hard, and you have to learn how to learn, and that's essential for working in tech. The like phrase like figure it out is like common, and Google is your friend. But outside of the art classes, I took a business class that was intro, but it wasn't part of the block though. And I don't remember the exact class, but like number, but we put together like a big presentation at the end. And I thought that one was really helpful. You worked with a team the entire semester, the same group. And then you like researched a company really, really hard. And then it sounds like the block, it wasn't, but, and then you do a presentation at the end. I remember I sent my presentation to the company we did it on. It was like a startup, and they emailed me back and they're like, you should apply here. And I did. they didn't accept me, but but it was still like really cool. And I thought, I don't know, just like a practical class. I'll have to figure out what the number was on that one. Marketing strategy.
Anyone? We have more time. You're all going to get points deducted from this class if you don't ask questions. It's not a class. All right. Do you have any advice or anything you would advise these students to do if they wanted to follow your career path besides coursework, besides internships, anything else that they might have access to that might support a journey to a career like yours?
For tech, I think a really quick way to figure out, like, this would take less than a week to figure out if you would enjoy it or not. There's free codingbootcamp.com, I think is what it is. I don't know, just look up free coding class and it will just take you through the very intro stuff. Like, and to me, I really liked it. I love puzzles and that's what it feels like to me, but it's not everyone's thing. So I think, like, just if you're curious at all, if you would be good at it or you would enjoy it, just like a really quick little free class that you could do online at less than a couple of days, honestly. And you would probably get a feel for like, oh, I could do this, or like, oh, I absolutely hate this.
I think for me, definitely, I don't know if everyone will like to hear this, but continuing your education, whether it is doing something that's free and you can get access to online, or even if it's a master's program, because so many of them have full ride scholarship opportunities to get masters in art history or whatever it is. I think for me, the greatest thing was being able to go abroad to do my master's, because you meet people from all over the world. So connections now, like in Hong Kong, Singapore, Mexico City, like all of these different places. And I just think it's just, you never know the people that you'll meet when you leave where you're comfortable. Funny saying that, because now I live in the town where I was born and raised. But it's always nice to go out and experience different things, especially beyond the United States, if you can. Because a lot of those connections I've made have led to job opportunities and exhibition opportunities. So as an introvert, I can say I know it's hard to like put yourself out there, but always strike up a random conversation with someone. Anna was always really good at that in college, and you never know where that sort of connection will lead you. So.
Do you think that coding is like a useful skill, even if we don't plan on going into something that requires coding, like just kind of learning it in general?
I think so. I think like there are certain principles about it that are just like useful in everyday life, like understanding what cookies are, understanding what session storage is, and what is HTML versus CSS. That stuff, I think it's not like essential to get through life, but it is nice sometimes when, I don't know, I just like know what's happening, if that makes sense. Like, because I interact with screens all the time and stuff, and just having like a better concept of like what's going on, I think is helpful. But yeah.
Even just a few weeks ago, we had a lecture at the museum on NFTs, and I FaceTimed Anna after, and I was like, explain Ethereum to me in all of these different terms. So I think like tech is inevitable, like it's so much part of our world, so it would never hurt to have a baseline understanding of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I will drag this out. both of you said you kind of ended up in jobs that you didn't expect to have. In other words, like your career goals as seniors in college are not your current career goals. So what would you say, what were your career goals when you were in college as students?
I had no idea.
I was about to say the same thing. I had no idea. I, at one point, was going to move to Asheville and work for like $8 an hour doing tie-dye. That was like an actual thing I was going to do. I had the internship lined up and everything. I was going to like live in a van. Weird. And then I was like, I have student loans that I have to pay, so I can't do that. Maybe later, maybe after I pay them off. That's kind of the plan, actually. It's like, I don't know, I don't want to be in tech forever because it is like very fast paced and it can be draining. I think it's really fun, but I can't really see myself doing it when I'm like, I don't know, 45. And so like, yeah, I think the plan is doing it for as long as like I feel comfortable with and using the extra money to become like financially stable. And then I'm buying a farm and I'm disappearing.
The opposite of
Works in tech, moves off the grid.
Yeah, see, I had no idea either. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be a practicing artist, but I didn't know exactly what to do with my art history degree. So my answer was just to do more school, which isn't always the best thing. But if you're doing more school, you also are getting more experiences and meeting new people, and it just sort of leads to new opportunities. I don't think there's anyone that knows when they're 22 years old what they want to do for a career. Like, I would be really shocked if you know that. And if you think you know what you want to do, it's likely to change, like being a tie-dye artist to working in tech. So I would just say stay open to all opportunities. And the thing is, like, the skills that you'll get in the art department can apply to so many different areas of life. So it's just about going out of your comfort zone, I feel like, and trying new things, and you never know where it will lead you. Which is not helpful, concrete advice. I apologize. It sounds like something that would be on an inspirational poster, but it's sort of true of like, you can't really dictate life experience, you know, you just have to sort of go with the opportunities that come.
Marta has a question.
Hi, guys. Professor Brown.
Hi.
So my question is, because it's more directed towards, I guess, Emory, but Anna, you're welcome to chime in. As an introvert, you said networking is really important. How can you give some tips for those introverts in the audience on how to network and get out of your comfort zone?
I have a tried and true technique. For example, last night I did an artist talk with an artist named Judith Linares, who's been based in New York since the 80s. And it was in front of 100 people. And I knew that it was going to be really difficult and exhausting. So I locked myself in my room the night before and didn't talk to anyone and just tried to conserve all my energy. But I think too, like, it just comes with practice. So the thing that I first started doing is I would go to networking events with people that I knew and just sort of like tagging along to them. So like, I'm part of the young professional group in Sarasota, and I have one friend who's really outgoing. So I just sort of stay around him and he introduces me to people. And the more that you do it and the more that you push yourself in the way, the easier it gets. So like last year, I would do a lecture in front of 15 people and it would terrify me. And then yesterday, doing it in front of 100 people, it was like nothing, just an easy conversation to have. So it's just about the practice and doing it over and over again, and doing it with someone else, I think, makes it a lot less scary.
Anything else, anyone? ask one more hardball. So you both graduated in 2018. Reflecting on your experience at Furman, what are your thoughts about Furman in general? You can answer it as honestly as you want. I wasn't there, so I won't be offended.
I think that like anything in life, you'll learn something from the things you like and the things you don't like. So there were some classes at Furman that were really challenging for me because it definitely was out of my wheelhouse, but I learned something from them. And I definitely didn't realize it at the time or in the moment, but reflecting on it later, I realized that. But I think the best thing about Furman and having a tighter knit community is the connections you'll make. Like the majority of the people we were in the art department with, we still talk to all the time. Making the connections, like knowing Danner's artwork and maybe not knowing it otherwise and being able to work with him collaboratively on the exhibition now. So I think it's just like, for me, it's always the connections with the people that you'll meet. And obviously the classes and the skills you learn are really important, but it's sort of the connections that you'll carry with you once you leave.
So for me, I think that like the one part that I wish I had done is taken more, even like more random classes. Like this is like really left field. One of my favorite classes was ancient Greek. I thought it was so fun. And even though I don't use ancient Greek every single day, I do like this similar, I don't know, it uses kind of the same part of my brain. It's really, I think that Furman taught me how to learn. And like I said before, that's just like a huge part of my job now. I mean, like even today, I was like looking up stuff. I was like, I don't know how to do that. I'll figure it out though. It'll be fine. So yeah, I guess I put a lot of pressure on picking the exact right major that I knew would get me the exact right job. And in the end, I didn't even get, like, it was like kind of related, but like kind of left field. Everyone was like, Anna, you're coding? That's what? And so, I don't know, I guess I just wish I had taken advantage of like all the different really cool classes that there are. Like more sculpture, even though I knew I wasn't gonna be doing sculpture, I wish I had taken all of them, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, my favorite class I took was ceramics, which I took second semester senior year. And it's just like, I didn't take it because I knew I didn't want to be a ceramicist, but it ended up being my favorite class. So that's great advice. Just like take the things that you haven't experienced before and just learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Emory, you have another talk to give here in a few minutes, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, we have a closing reception for an exhibition starting in 5 minutes, so I probably need to jump.
Yeah, okay. So let's give a round of applause. Thank you so much for